After the success of WrestleMania 1, Vince McMahon decided next year, 1986, it was time to go bigger than before. Bigger than the last one. Even bigger than WrestleMania, where they had all the celebrities, all the big names, all the big feuds that the WWF had at the time. They thought they'd go one better than that. How could they go better, first of all? They put it in 3 separate locations. Something that I think was a stupid move, and judging by the fact that they've never done it again, I'm sure that WWE realised in hindsight that it was a pretty bad move. This is my review of WrestleMania 2. Right, let's get into it. The first match on the card was Don Morocco versus Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. Now, as you can tell already, Paul Orndorff's gone from the main event of WrestleMania 1 all the way to the opening match of WrestleMania 2. And this was a shitter. It was crap. It ended up in a double count out. At the start of the pay-per-view, you want to give us something exciting, something to make us really excited and be like, yeah, this is WrestleMania, I'm really excited for this huge show. There's a reason why I'm watching this. But this is just like, oh, this is a bit boring, come on. And I was starting to get a bit bored after just the first match. And I don't think that's what the WWE intended. Where did this go from? I don't think this went anywhere, to be honest. Like, I didn't hear of this storyline ever progressing onto anything else, so maybe that's just my naivety and ignorance. Anyway, match 2. This was a good match. George the Animal Steele versus Macho Man Randy Savage. Both guys making their WrestleMania debut, with Macho Man Randy Savage becoming a staple of the WWF for years to come, and George the Animal Steele being that lovable good guy that all the fans like. Sort of like a Eugene, but for the mid-1980s. This was a very cleverly worked match. George Animal Steele was the Savage running around trying to bite Savage, eating the turnbuckle, throwing the foam from the turnbuckle in Savage's face. Not your standard classical wrestling match, but it was very entertaining. Something that WWF need to do more. WWE need to do more now, where the stupid stuff that they do isn't entertaining, whereas this, it was entertaining because it really fit his character, because his character is that he's a savage. It's in the name, George the Animal Steele. See what I did there? It's in the name. He's against Randy Savage. Never mind. So yeah, George Animal Steele and Savage. Savage keeps running away from him. In the end, Savage ends up getting the win, and Savage here looks really good. There was a moment, bearing in mind this is 1986, he's on the top turnbuckle. Not only does he leap and jump off the top turnbuckle, he does it to the outside and hits a double axe handle smash, and that, for the time, was probably amazing. Next up, you've got Jake the Savage one. Next we got Jake the Snake Roberts versus George Wells. Jake Roberts making his WrestleMania debut against a guy who I've never heard of before, even though I've seen WrestleMania 2 before, because I've got the DVD right here, if you don't know what I'm reading off. WrestleMania 2, it might tag classic. I didn't show the boxing for my WrestleMania 1 review, but anyway, even though I've seen this before, I couldn't remember George Wells, so that goes to show like how important he is in the grand scheme of things. Roberts got the win. After the match, he gets the snake and puts it all around him. One thing I will give George Wells, that he started to froth at the mouth after the match when they put the snake on him. He must have just had like saliva in the back of his throat and just lobbed up a greenie, but he's like foaming at the mouth, and it really looked like the snake was trying to strangle him. Well, now you can tell it was pretty funny. Back then it probably looked a lot more real. But yeah, okay match. Jake Roberts, very good at selling, very good at making George Wells look good for the time that he needed to, and then get his comeback and get the win. Next up, we had the Fabulous Moolah versus Velvet McIntyre. And I actually have... No, that's not what came next. Roddy Piper versus Mr. T in a boxing match. And was it this match? There was it wasn't this match, no. The first match, Don Morocco is accompanied to the ring by Mr. Fuji, and he's against Paul Orndorff, and Paul Orndorff's supposed to be the good guy, and it just shows the difference in times that a good guy can do this and Mr. Fuji, and like, that is acceptable. How is that acceptable? That's not acceptable. That's a racist thing. That's a heel move, if anything. But this is a good guy doing it, and that's another one of the reasons why I remember it being stupid. But yeah, let's get back to this Mr. T versus Roddy Piper boxing match. Could they have done without this? Probably, but the fact of the matter is, it's WrestleMania. Vince McMahon didn't want to spend as much money as he did on the first one, bringing in lots of celebrities, but he still kept in Mr. T because, like I said, him and Roddy Piper, they were butting heads. This is now my symbol for butting heads. They were butting heads, and they didn't like each other, and they let it be known publicly. So Vince McMahon decided to use it within the storyline that, listen, these two guys really don't like each other. Let's put this in the storyline. Let's give the fans something to like really be excited for, because these guys hate each other. We're going to put them in a boxing match. It's going to look real. Obviously, it wasn't real, but the intention was to make it look more real. Yet again, another boxer being included in this match, with Smoking Joe Frazier being in Mr. T's corner. Again, that's a really good thing. Like, Joe Frazier, in my opinion, is up. Well, at that time, was probably up there as one of the best 3 boxers of all time. Well, best 5 boxers of all time, along with the likes of Ali, Foreman, Rocky Marciano, and I don't know. I'd say they're the top 4 off the top of my head. So, yeah, celebrity involvement big. This is the reason why it wasn't on the card. They could have made it a wrestling match, but I suppose they wanted it to make it look real. That's why they put it in a boxing match. It was sort of entertaining. It sort of wasn't. In the end, Piper ends up getting disqualified and Mr. T gets the win. I think that's how it ended. Honestly, this section of the card I was getting a little bit bored at, because I don't know, it was sort of dragged a little bit. The way they kept on changing from arena to arena, I was just a bit like. Right, next up, Fabulous Moolah versus Velvet McIntyre. I forgot who wins this match. Nothing of note to talk about. Oh no, I do remember who wins this match. Moolah won in about 9 seconds. That's why I couldn't remember, because it was shit. She just slammed her to the ground and climbed on top of her and pinned her, and I was like, really? You actually wanted to put that on WrestleMania? Like, that was really worth it? They probably wanted to put it on there just so it was women wrestling featured on WrestleMania. But 9 seconds, it's just like a joke. Like, oh yeah, we've got women on here. They only lasted a few seconds though, and then they're gone. Next up, Corporal Kirchner versus Nikolai Volkov in a flag match. You got the Kozlov. You got Volkov from the USSR. You've got Kirchner from America, soldier type guy. Come on, let's have this. Before it was tired out and played out with all the racism in wrestling and stuff. This is when it had just started coming onto a multinational stage, so this is where they can get away with doing these sort of bordering on racist angles like this. Anyway, they had a Kirchner go over Volkov. What do you expect from WrestleMania? Let's put over America. Yeah, well done WWE. I've got nothing against it, to be honest. Then we had a 20-man battle royal featuring wrestlers and NFL players. This was really special in terms of an attraction for WrestleMania. I think it was like 10 wrestlers and 10 NFL players. Imagine that now, if they got 10 guys from the NFL to wrestle in a match at WrestleMania. How big of a draw would that be? I think it at least had like a couple thousand people wanting to watch it and ordering the pay-per-view just because they think, oh, Jiminy what's his face is playing from the Chicago Whitefaces again, and so's Bill Frankenstein from the Washington Blue Hawks. I don't know about American football. I support the Cleveland Browns just because the Family Guy character. Anyway, Andre the Giant ends up winning it. It was a pretty entertaining battle royal, and what was more entertaining was before the match they had an interview between Big John Studd and one of the American footballers, and it looked like these two. Well, it looked like the American footballer actually hated Big John Studd, and it looked like John Studd was a bit scared of him. I've been a bit critical of John Studd in my last few videos. I actually think he's alright, but yeah, it was very interesting, the little promo between them, because the American footballer just acted really cockily. Maybe he was just really good at being a heel, which I think might have been the case, and that might be why they did put him in this promo, because they wouldn't have probably wanted to feature someone who was actually a knobhead in the promo when they could have chosen any of the 10. Anyway, yeah, Andre the Giant ends up winning when he's last in the ring with the Hart Foundation. He throws out Anvil and he throws out Bret Hart and he gets the win. Next up, Brutus Beefcake and Greg the Hammer Valentine, the Dream Team, against the British Bulldogs, Davey Boy Smith, Tom Billington, the Dynamite Kid. A pretty decent match. I'll say that mainly because I'm a huge Dynamite Kid fan, big British Bulldogs fan. Even though I've probably not watched many of their matches since I was a kid, I see about 1 or 2 of their matches a year, and that's how get caught up on their stuff. But yeah, I really do enjoy their stuff whenever I do get the chance to watch them. And the Bulldogs ended up getting the win and became new WWF Tag Team Champions, which I believe would have been the first ever British Tag Team Champions, which is very good. Next up, we had a good match. Ricky Steamboat versus Hercules Hernandez. Hercules Hernandez was made to look really good in this. I remember always thinking, oh, Hercules is a bit boring, I don't really like him that much. But in this match, Ricky Steamboat made him look excellent. And I'd say this is a good 3 to 4 star match, and I don't really rate matches, but I really did enjoy this. Steamboat really did get a good match out of Hercules Hernandez, and it goes to show why Steamboat does have the reputation that he does have for being an in-ring general, because he was so good in this match. Next up, Adrian Adonis versus Uncle Elmer. If I was to explain Uncle Elmer to people who don't know, I'd say he's a cross between Kevin Nash and Viscera, because he's really large, and at one point he hit Adrian Adonis and fell over himself and needed to pull on the ropes to get back to his feet. Not to slander him, because I'm sure he was a very nice guy, but I wonder why he was featured so high upon this card. Maybe it was just a sort of a bit of a comic relief towards the end of the DVD. That's why they ordered it like this, or in the VHS when it was back then. But the thing I did notice, Adrian Adonis was so charismatic first of all, but so good at selling. He sold like a motherfucker, and I gained so much respect for Adrian Adonis. I've only ever seen 2 of his matches, this one and the WrestleMania 3 match against Roddy Piper. Both times he was excellent. Well, this time especially he was excellent. I'm going to watch WrestleMania 3 next and review that. Hopefully I'll be saying good things about him. But yeah, fantastic in this, but so charismatic. Plays off the Gorgeous George type of character. Then we had Terry Funk and Dory Funk versus the Junkyard Dog and Tito Santana in a good tag team match. The Funks are very good. If you ever seen Terry Funk, while I was watching this, I thought to myself, do you know what? Terry Funk's probably one of my top 10 wrestlers of all time, or at least one of my top 2 or 3 most underrated wrestlers of all time, because you never really hear many people talking about him when it comes to the best. It's always the likes of Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels. Some newer fans will talk about Undertaker, Triple H. Your Japanese fans will talk about Dynamite Kid, Misawa, what's he called? I can't think of any of the others that I brought up when it comes to Japanese, but you know what I mean. No one ever really talks about Terry Funk, and I believe Terry Funk deserves his due, because he was a really good wrestler, not just in America, not just in mainstream wrestling, like when he worked for the NWA, he also worked for WWF for a short time. Working in ECW, working in Japan, he worked all over, and he was very consistent. But yeah, this was a good match. I would recommend this one to people. I'd also recommend the Adonis one, the Savage one, and the Ricky Steamboat one, and the Bulldogs one. I'd recommend quite a few matches off this card, but not the main event. Well, let me just go back to the tag team one. The Funks beat Junkyard Dog and Tito Santana. It just seemed like they'd been thrown together just to be a face tag team to go against the heel Crazy Funk Brothers. Anyway, main event. This was going to be the first ever WWF World Heavyweight Championship match on WrestleMania. Last year they had a tag team match, so they wanted to up it this year. They thought, we're going to have the world title defended. Hulk Hogan's going to defend against... We need someone big, a monster. We'll put him against King Kong Bundy. King Kong Bundy, and we'll put it in a cage. We'll make it a gimmick match. So this was a cage match for the world title. Very exciting for the time. Like they said, I'm sure they said on commentary that it had never been done before, a cage match and a world title in one. This would have been like very exciting at the time for the wrestling fans. The fact that it was Hogan and Bundy, 2 guys who are not known for their technical proficiency, doesn't really matter. They can tell a story in the ring, and that's what they did. It was a bit of a boring story, I will say that, but the match didn't last for too long, and in the end Hulk Hogan got the win, and then Bobby Heenan, who was his manager, Hulk Hogan got a bit of revenge on him by giving him an atomic drop which sent him bouncing out the ring. All in all, I'd say this WrestleMania was better than the last one. If I was to rate WrestleMania 1, which I didn't do on the last one, I'd probably rate it about a 5 out of 10. No, I'd probably rate it about a 3 out of 10 as WrestleManias go. As a show goes, 5 out of 10. It's a standard show. It's big. It was big time. It had loads of celebrities, but it had loads of boring stuff too. So it meets itself halfway. This one, just slightly better than that, about 5.5 or 6. This was a good, solid show. Like, quite a few of these matches were good. All in all, I remember in the past not having good memories of WrestleMania 2, but I want to know your thoughts on WrestleMania 2. Have you ever watched it? And if you have watched it, let me know what you thought of it down below. What did you think of the specific matches? What do you think of Vince McMahon's choice to put WrestleMania in 3 different towns? And do you think that would be a good idea to do it now? For example, he could do one show in the US in, say, a big city, and then he could do like a separate show in the UK, and as a bonus sort of double WrestleMania build-on show. I think that would be a nice way to give the UK fans a bit extra, because we got to stay up till fucking 4 or 5 in the morning to watch some of these pay-per-views. Although WrestleMania usually starts about midnight rather than 1 o'clock, so it's all usually over by like 3:30, 4 o'clock. But still, that's a long time to stay up just to watch wrestling. So we deserve something. But what do you think of the show? What do you think of my video? Did you enjoy the video? Did you enjoy the review? Are you enjoying this series? Will you come back, more importantly, and watch my review of WrestleMania 3, which should be up very, very soon, as I'm going to go watch it now and then review it sharpishly. So thank you very much for watching. With that, I'm out. See you later.